ring of fire is no freaking joke. That was painful. The pain went from like 10, and then the ring of fire was like 100. So I'm gonna be honest, when I first met Igor, the idea of potentially having another child in the future was in the back of my mind. And the name that I kept seeing, or the word that I kept seeing, was arrows. So I kept seeing arrows everywhere, and I would see it like, I would be down a street and it was like Arrow Street, and I would just see like, it was really strange. I would just always see that. And so fast forward to last year when I found out I was pregnant, when I walked out into the room at the hotel, you guys know the story. I looked up, and I was like in a high like in a building in a high-rise hotel room, and when I looked up to see what's in front of me, I saw the ocean, right, the sea. And so I thought, I heard the word Vanna, and I thought, I'm having a girl. And mind you, that was like moments after I found out that I was pregnant. And I just remember thinking Vanna, and I actually took a screenshot of me looking up what the word meant on the plane back to LA before I told Igor and before I told anyone that I was pregnant. And so I really liked the word sea for multiple reasons. So one being the idea that that whether I had a boy or a girl, that they would feel connected to their older siblings, and that they would never feel different, and that they would feel like they all, are connected. So that was one thing. So going back to the arrows. So I like the idea of baby having arrows as a middle name. And there was this whole thing that I was channeling about 7 generations forward, healing 7 generations, 7 arrows forward. And then I read something in the Bible about children and arrows, and I remember thinking, like, wait a minute, like I feel like this is the baby's name. It's either 7 arrows, like 7. Also, when I found out I was pregnant, I saw that the due date would be in July, so I thought, well, that's the 7th month of the year, and that Cancer energy and that water energy, and so I thought 7, like heaven, right? So you just change the S or the H to the S, and then you keep the C, and then Vanna. So Vanna means, in multiple languages, it means God is gracious, and it also means forest. And Igor and I met in the rainforest, and so I thought, wait, I really love that. I really love Vanna, and so I had to keep that if it was a girl. And so, yeah, there's like many like synchronicities around the name. And so her name is Vanna Arrows. And it just makes so much sense that I always say, like, I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, her biggest flex is that she was born into a family full of love and full of, and full of like love and forgiveness and acceptance and healing, and we're all trying really hard to be our best. And she came into a family that was welcoming of her and just so much love. And so there's many synchronicities, but that's just kind of okay. So you asked me what other names I had in mind. Just Sirenda was one that I was thinking, but to be honest, Sivana was always it. Yeah, so during my pregnancy, I had done a lot of research about Lotus births, and I was considering it, and I really liked the idea of doing it, but I would need a lot of support with that. So, like, it would be something that I would have to have my midwife be a part of, making sure every day that, that everything's healing properly, and then I would it would be a lot of work, right? So I'd have to bring the placenta with me and baby while I'm feeding, and it's like a whole process. So I was considering it just because a friend of a friend who had done that she had made videos about it, and she had explained it really well, and I love the idea, and she made it look so beautiful and just so easy. But after baby was born, or actually not even after, right before baby was born, I was like, I just don't feel like I want to do that. Like it's going to take a couple days, and I really want to be comfortable with the baby, and I want to start, I want to be able to hold baby properly and stuff, and it's going to be a little more difficult, and I just don't have the patience for that. So what we did was we waited a couple of hours and until the placenta stopped pulsing, and until it turned white, and then that's when we decided to do the cutting of the cord. But we didn't cut, we actually did the burning. So I actually have a video of this, but Patty, who's done multiple newborn shoots for our family, who's been part of the family, who's been a good friend for us for many years. She's done a lot of photo shoots for the kids. She's like the baby whisperer. She's seen every newborn in town. This woman has done every newborn photo shoot, and I trust her judgment. And she goes, Catherine, she has blue eyes. And I'm like, what? No, don't like all newborns have like light eyes? She's like, no, she has blue eyes. Like her eyes are blue and they're gonna be blue. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe they're gonna turn like hazel. No, she's like, no, they're blue. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see if they're blue. Igor had mentioned a couple of days after she was born, he was like, I think her eyes are blue. And I was like, no, all newborns have like bluish eyes. Like, I didn't want to like believe it, because it's so crazy how like genetics works. But like, hi baby, my brother has blue eyes, and my mom and dad have brown eyes, hazel eyes, brown eyes. My grandfather had blue eyes, and so they do run in our family up there, like some generations up there. But if Savannah has blue eyes, she is on brand, that girl. But we're gonna see. Either way, it doesn't matter what color eyes she has, but they do look very light, and I'm gonna show you a video later on. You're gonna be like, how about you be the judge of it? Yes, so when you get a midwife, or however you decide to do like a home birth, it is, like a whole process, but I will say it's definitely not as expensive as giving birth in hospital. But yeah, do your research. You get to decide like what is best for you, and that's what I did for me. I think like after doing it 3 times a certain way, just experiencing it that way, I knew that I didn't want to experience it that way anymore. And it just comes with time and age and wisdom and learning and doing research. And for me, it was like, I know that I am capable of doing this in my house and doing this in a place where I feel the safest. And I found my midwife very close by. She's amazing. She's literally down the street. And I felt like a different experience having her as the person to help me through this journey. Like, I wasn't going into a hospital to get checkups. I was going into her office, and it felt sacred and beautiful and safe. And I genuinely only had 2 ultrasounds my entire pregnancy. Like, I just did the first one where you make sure you're pregnant, and then the second one was the 21-week genetic testing, and that's it. That's all that I really did. And then I personally didn't want to do the glucose, so I went another direction. There's certain things that I opted out of that I just didn't want to do, and I didn't feel safe doing it. And so yeah, she provided me with all the care and everything that I needed. And she was amazing. And so, yeah, you do have to pay. But insurance can cover part of it, depending on who you go with, like who your midwife is. And it just depends on where you are too. But yeah. So I had a tear with one of my kids in the past. I just don't remember if it was with Elle or Alea. I think it was with Elle. I just remember faintly a nurse saying, oh, you have a little tear, it's like 1 stitch. And I remember thinking like, oh, thank that sucks. But I was like so out of it, because when you take medication, you're just not as present. And so, but I never had another tear. I didn't have one with Steele, and I didn't have one with Savannah. And I remember like this was just like last week when I gave birth. I had Megan and the doula, she was a registered nurse. who's also a doula, and she was there and she was checking me, and Megan also like made a check as well, and she was like, you didn't tear. And I remember thinking like, I wonder if that has to do because like I was in water and I was like more in control and more aware, and when I pushed, it was like mind to body, like. And then when I did tear that one time years ago, whether that was 10 or 8 years ago, it was me straining and not feeling anything because of the medicine. So, but yeah, it can happen, and it can happen to anyone, but thankfully it didn't happen this time. She was born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long, and Steele was also born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long. She was born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long, and Steele was also born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long. She was born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long, and Steele was also born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long. She was born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long, and Steele was also born 8 pounds 1 ounce 21 inches long. She was born 8. Okay, so going back to what I was saying earlier, so when I had reached the Ring of Fire, I remembered in that moment instantly that at my baby shower, all of my friends and family were there giving me these blessing ways, and I remember just like all their words and everything that they were saying to me. Jessica had said, like, you got this, like, you're gonna do this, like, you're in control, like, you're so strong, like, don't forget. And I remember her words, and I remembered that she had also done her labors naturally. And then I remembered my friend Joan, who's like a sister to me, and she was sending me all. It was like with my postpartums, I was pretending to be strong. I was lying to myself and telling myself, I'm strong. I don't need to sit with these feelings. Like, these feelings are going to go away, you know? But I was also I didn't have mentors. I didn't have help. I didn't have the support system that I do today. And I didn't have very many people asking me how I was doing, because at the time, I think everyone, especially my family, they just expected me just to be strong, because that's kind of always what I put out, and that was my fault, right? Not speaking up, not talking about certain things, and just dealing with things on my own. And so I look back at the old version of me, and I love her, and I want to hug her and just tell her, like, wow, you are strong, but it's okay sometimes to show weakness and sadness. And so this time around, I've been really sitting with myself, and I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about women in general, and one thing that I came up with that I've realized is that we've used the wrong term for decades or however long. I think that postpartum depression is something that is used too loosely, and that's not the right term. Depression is definitely a part of what a woman can experience after giving birth, but it's not all of it. It's not all of it. There's anxiety, there's fear, there's changes. I mean, you literally give birth and you're bleeding from every angle for weeks, and you feel uncomfortable in your body, and you know, like, so many changes around you, even with your partner and with the dynamic in your routine in your family. Everything changes, but yet we call it postpartum depression. I think that, like, we should collectively come up with another term. We should call it like postpartum journey or something, like, because there's so many aspects to it. And I've been dealing with all of them, like, you know, and there's ups and downs, and it's a hormonal thing, it's a biology thing, it's a physical thing that we're experiencing as women, and it's not easy. And I think that it's something that, especially here in this particular country, that we really need to talk about more and focus on, because in other parts of the world there's more care, there's more support, you know, there's the 40 days where, like, you get help, and we don't have that here. And just even like asking questions and doing research and writing more. So yes, so I actually before I had the baby,